3, 2, 1. Welcome to Brawlhalla!
Whether you use them to get a cheesy kill after a solid hit, or using them as a combo starter or extender, weapon throws have been a huge part of Brawlhalla since the very beginning, making me believe that weapon throws in its entirety have a whole different game that can be easily exploited in your match-to-match Brawlhalla experience. My name is Bacterius, and this is the weapon throw metagame. Weapon throws is one of Brawlhalla's most important mechanic, allowing your character to swap and also prime your two main weapons, break neutral, start and extend combos, game people and recover safely. Most of the things in this list are used in any stage of the game. Doesn't matter if you're at 10, gold or diamond, you'll end up using a weapon throw at least once every game. Let's dive onto them. Weapons in Brawlhalla have a certain amount of health upon use. What does that mean? It means that if you get hit a certain amount of times while holding that weapon, once your weapon health goes to 0, you get disarmed. Many experienced players prefer to swap their weapons once they get a stock off, which is pretty straightforward. However, experienced players have a different thing in mind, and that is to weapon starve and prime their weapons. Let me break that down. Priming your weapon means that every time you get to a weapon spawn, while holding your main weapon, you'll cycle through those two weapons, throwing your secondary weapon away while sticking with your main weapon. So the next time you get to another weapon spawn, instead of getting your secondary weapon, you get your main one. Weapon starving is literally that, making your opponent be in a disadvantaged state, keeping them from grabbing a weapon, forcing them to play unarmed while you keep racking up damage. This match just got into a stale state, meaning that none of the players are taking any risk to try and approach. Without weapon throws, this can go on and on until the match ends, but with weapon throws, aside of having in mind your approach options depending on your and your opponent's weapon, each player is aware that the other one can just turn off their brain and simply dash and throw their weapon. This gets annoying with every weapon, but especially with big weapons like the rocket lance or cannon. However, this, no matter how strong it is, it has a major flaw. If you miss your weapon throw, you're screwed. So you finally decided to engage, and your first move is dash and throw your weapon. Noelle is proud of you. But what comes next? Let's say your weapon actually hits. Depending on certain factors, weapon throws can be used to start or extend combos. Those said factors are your momentum while throwing the weapon, the distance between your weapon and its target, and your opponent's damage. And when those factors align in your favor, you get stuff like this. Later in this video, I'll explain this in more depth. Now, let's move on to being off stage is a scary place to be, but unlike Brawlhalla Twitter, you can solve your way to get out of it easily. Mixing up your recovery is crucial, especially with weapons like Rocket Lance, where your movement options are limited by its linear recovery, making it very predictable on where you're gonna go after you press the heavy button. But picture this, you're a Lance player, and you got thrown far off stage. You use one jump and your dodge, meaning that you still have one more jump and your recovery. You either used your last jump to mix up your positioning so your recovery doesn't get struck by an attack or a weapon throw, or you used your last jump combined with a rising weapon throw, and then use your less linear unarmed recovery to get to the wall. A rising weapon throw off stage works like a wall, depending on your weapon of course. A wall that can be only trespassed by another weapon throw. Using your weapon throw to get back on stage works perfectly against players with no patience, meaning that every time they go to engage with you off stage, you'll end up with the upper hand because they're likely gonna get hit by your previous weapon throw. But that leads us into its counterplay, an offensive weapon throw. Let's reverse that previous situation. Now you are the player that's on stage. What do? You either keep your ground and try to read their movement pattern, so you get a finishing blow when they get near the stage, or right after you hit them with your previous blow, that one that sent them off stage, dash and throw your weapon to try and secure the kill. Players like Crocky and the Ninja 729 have perfected a technique called the Zeus throw, where they throw their weapon just on the right spot of the corner of the stage, making it seem like it's gonna bounce, but instead it looks like it goes right through the wall on a devastating diagonal shot. But as I said before, no matter how strong and cheese an offensive weapon throw can be, if you guess wrong, your opponent is gonna have a free way to get into the stage and punish you because of it.
3, 2, 1, sudden death.
Unlike my ex, I like to live up to my promises, and as I said before, we're gonna deep dive into our offensive game with weapon throws, covering baiting, starting combos at low percent, DDBs and their potential. Movement is a big part in platform fighters. With good movement, your options can be infinite, due to the amount of scenarios you're creating with just moving forward. Just like I said moments earlier, each player is aware that the other one can just turn off their brain and just dash weapon throw to break the neutral. But this extends farther than what you might normally think. Players like Stingray or Compton like to throw their weapon downwards and immediately pick it up. Seems simple enough, but the way they do it, it is to apply pressure, making it seem like they're approaching with a weapon throw, when in reality, they're conditioning their opponents to panic and force them to engage first. By throwing your weapon upwards, however, you create a false weapon starve situation, forcing your weapon to act fast in order to snatch said weapon from you before you do it. Many times this is what you want. Throwing your weapon up can lead into two things. You can either perform the weapon starve, or if you see your opponent get close to you, wait for your weapon to come down and hit the other player, allowing you to get extra hits while also keeping your weapon starve game intact most of the time. Let's take the simple route. Throw your weapon, hit your opponent with an unarmed D-light, pick up your weapon and use any move you want. The easy bread and butter for any gauntlet player. The stun provided by your weapon throw leads into a perfect hit for your unarmed D-light, a move that has a lot of stun compared to a move like Spear Neutral Light that only serves as a poking option. Platforms can also serve as a combo extender. Maps like Crystal Temple or Small Enigma can massively increase any weapons option. This, combined with our bread and butter weapon throw into unarmed D-light, makes up for a massive combo like this one. Though not all weapons work well with platforms, because in order to use said platforms in your favor, you have to platform cancel a down move, and as we all know, not all weapons can set easy hits like hammer and sword. An example of weapons that cannot get a free setup on platforms are Scythe, Cannon, and Greatsword, due to their D-lights not hitting stack or close in front. But just like my most recent relationship, the higher the damage, the less likely you are to succeed. How do we solve this? Let me present to you DDBs. The velocity and stun of almost any weapon throw can be reduced by this next unspoken factor, bouncing off a solid part on stage. Having this in mind, we can bring weapon throw combos back to life by doing this. And now that we're onto that orange to red health type of range, it becomes 10 times deadlier. And only for this, I made a tier list with the next ranking system. Easy to decent combo potential, plus has easy to useful kill confirms. Decent combo potential, but doesn't have any useful kill options. It straight up doesn't work, aka the hammer tier. Gauntlets, the easiest weapon to get either kills or big damage. Axe, great damage output, has Sair and Grampon to mix up its skill options, plus one absurd combo to get an early KO. Blasters, decent setups to get early kills, similar to gauntlets, but a little bit harder to set up. katars, decent combo potential, and decent mix-ups as skill options. Greatsword, not the biggest combo potential, but has multiple kill options. This one's being a little late, but you know. Sword, decent at racking up damage, but does not have the most comfortable setups for any kill to confirm. Orb, literally the same as Sword, but does not have any reliable setups other than recovery to get a kill. Bow, same as those two above, but little mix up when it comes to racking up damage, but I still have some options and one quote-unquote early kill confirm with Nair. Spear, really good at racking up damage, but it's the most difficult to find kills with. Scythe, mainly racks up damage with multiple dodge reads and options. The Rocket Lance, it has some mix-ups with any aerial move, plus gravity cancel sidelight leads into almost all of those said moves. Cannon, tied with lance but uncomfortable to use, but also has a 2-piece, which is kinda neat. And Hammer. Hammer does not bounce out of a dash down throw, making it the only weapon unable to get any conversions. But how do we perform at DDB? First, have in mind the distance between you and your opponent. Dash and down throw or diagonally down throw your weapon. You'll notice how every weapon has a different type of bounce based on their weight, your opponent's damage, and the range between you when you throw your weapon and your opponent. The next steps are very similar to how you will normally combo with a weapon throw at 0%. So it's up to you if you want to practice this, and maybe even master it if you desire to. In my personal opinion, this, if mastered, can be potentially deadly in most situations of stress, especially considering that some weapons have easy bounce setups, though, as all things in this game, if you try to go for it 24/7, you'll make it very obvious and thus your opponent can adapt and play around it. Hey, did you think this video was good, or I don't know, do you have any feedback for my future videos, or did I miss something about weapon throws? If so, please let me know in the comments, and as always, thank you for watching.